So Regigigas in Pokemon Sword and Shield has really good overall stats, but like it doesn't matter about his stats because his ability is so bad and slow start. It halves its speed and attack for the first 5 turns of battle, which honestly it's like you have 80 attack and 50 speed for the first 5 turns, and it switches and it resets when you switch out, which also really sucks. But 110 attack, 110 health, 110 defense, and 110 special defense. You're really tanky. But at the same time, you have no sustain, and you have no way to increase your tankiness. So, like, even with slow start, Regigigas is weird, but, like, if you can get rid of slow start, it's really good with its 160 attack and 100 speed. Like, it isn't the fastest thing, but it's high attack. So if you can get through that slow start, it'll start doing a ton of damage. And 80 special attack, which I feel like they 100% did on purpose. So with slow start, your attack and special attack are even. But anyways, he's pure normal, which is not a bad typing, but like with slow start, it's not the greatest. You're weak to fighting, you're immune to ghosts, which you have no resistances. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, just either pretty much everything's gonna hit you neutral. So you're just gonna have to rely on bulk or some trickery to get through it. But there are ways to get through the slow start, especially some of these things like Simple Beam, Skill Swap, Worry Seed, and Entrainment. Like, pretty much is ways to get rid of your abilities. Simple Beam makes your abilities simple. Skill Swap swaps your abilities. Worry Seed makes your ability Insomnia. And Entrainment will give Regigigas, whoever used that move, whoever used Entrainment will give Regigigas their ability. But there are other ways, like the best way pretty much is in double battles with Neutralizing Gas with Galarian and Wheezing. Which is the best way, well, Wheezing in general, just a Wheezing. This is the best way to do it, just to get rid of it. So that you won't have the, like, neutralizing gas just completely gets rid of the ability, so it saves you a little bit. Or well, like, it gets rid of slow start, which is really good. Another way though is both both of their abilities do different. They do slightly different things, but they both get rid of slow start. For example, they both are affected by contact. This Wandering Spirit and Mummy, but Wandering Spirit switches abilities, and Mummy makes both Pokemon's ability Mummy pretty much. So there are ways around the Regigigas' slow start, but you have to, most of them are doubles, except for like you can play around it with Mummy a little bit, but you run the risk of them switching out, and then it's like, okay, cool, Regigigas doesn't get this ability anymore. But like, there are ways around it, especially with the Mummy, because with Mummy, for example, they can have something at like 1 hit points, and they're like, or something that's already set up that has Mummy, and they're like, oh, I'm not gonna switch out, and then Regigigas comes in, hits them, and then his slow start's gone. So there are ways around it. You kind of have to, especially if they're built up tanky, or they have a lot of defenses, in which a move like Darkest Lariat would be really good on that set. Like, it's really good on something like that. If you can get something that's raising their defense and they hit you physical, so you can, so pretty much, long story short, you get ready to get Mummy and they won't switch out because they have defense, and then Darkest Lariat just ignores that. So there are ways, you have to play around Regigigas, but one way to do it is in doubles with something like either a Galarian Wheezing or Galarian Wheezing for the most part, because the other two you have to hit them physically, so you're wasting a turn doing damage, and you're just wasting a turn at that point. It's not really worth it. That's why I like Galarian Wheezing, especially if you Dynamax too. It's really good with Regigigas with him. But you have to be careful though, because if Galarian Wheezing gets taken out, then your slow, if it hasn't been 5 turns, your slow start will still be there. So you would have to run kind of a support / just stally Galarian Wheezing, or Wheezing in general, just to try to get the most out of it. But same with Truant. Like, slow start and Truant are the worst abilities in the game. They're just straight hindrances. That and Defeatus is up there too, but these two really just butcher the Pokemon. But pretty much you want to come in with preferably Wheezing. And Crush Grip's really good for something that's at max health still, because it has 120 base power, because it's effective off their health. So it's like, it's a good move if they have full health, but other than that, I wouldn't really use it. But 120 base power stabs pretty good on a 160 attack, especially Adamant. For the most part, I like Adamant on Regigigas just so you get the most out of your attack, because once you have slow start and 100 speed, this one, for example, if you're running this in doubles with the Galarian Wheezing, then you can take out, if you want to run speed, you can run Speedy. You'd run max speed EVs or a speedy nature like Jolly. It just depends on what you want. I just like the bulk, and just in case they take out Wheezing, so you'll be guaranteed to survive another move. But Crush Grip, Earthquake, if you run Wheezing, you have to be careful of Earthquake, because Earthquake will hit them super effective. So you can always replace Earthquake with like high horsepower, or just another really good move like if you're not worried about speed, Hammer Arm, or Like, he has really good, Regigigas has really good coverage overall, though, with some of its moves. So, like, Darkest Lariat's really good. Drain Punch if you want Sustain. Like, again, Revenge and Payback if you're guaranteed. Like, if you're not worried about speed, those two are really good. Zen Headbutt, Iron Head, Rock Slide. Like, Body Press, for example. Like, it has really good moves overall. Body Press is also really good when you still have Slow Start activated because it uses your defense, which, with Slow Start, your defense will be higher. But, again, Rock Slide hits both opponents. Again, if you're running Wheezing, get rid of Earthquake for coverage. And in the last slot, you can run something like Wide Guard or another coverage move, but Wide Guard in case you're expecting them to use an Earthquake or a Rock Slide. Wide Guard's really good, especially if Wheezing's gone and you're trying to like stall a little bit. Wide Guard's pretty good. And then just another coverage move in that last slot. Heat Crash and Heavy Slam have their uses on Regigigas, because I want to say Regigigas is kind of heavy. Let's see. Yeah, about 1,000 pounds. They have their uses against something really light, but you have to be really careful with those moves because they have a chance of just being useless if you go against things that are decently heavy. Ice Punch for the dragons, you're worried about them. Knockoff's also a really good option too. If you're not worried about the Darkest Lariat ignoring stat changes, Knockoff is really good because Knockoff does more damage, but it's only for that one hit, so you have to be really careful about that. You can also run like a Thunder Wave too in that last slot. In this, instead of Wide Guard, like Thunder Wave to status them. For the item though, for this, it's really what you want. Like, if depending on how you want to run Regigigas and doubles. If you want to stall out the slow start, then Leftovers is really good. If not, you can run something like a Lumberry to protect yourself from status. Life Orb if you just want a ton of damage. It just depends on what you want. You can run a Citrus Berry or one of the Guava berries, one of the 1/4 berries. If you want Assault Vest if you're running full attack. Like, you can run Regigigas a bunch of different ways. If you want Rocky Helmet, for example, because you're so physically bulky. Like, if you just want to do that. Salac Berry if you want that speed boost once you get that low. It's just, Regigigas is weird when it comes down. He can do a lot of things. But another way to run him is, this is a Dynamax Regigigas, and it's very weird because you can, like I said, there's a lot of different ways you can really run this, especially if you have slow start. But, like, again, Glaring Weezing double, or Dynamax first turn, something like that. Or just switch him in later in the battle on Dynamax and just try to win from there. That's the best time to really Dynamax for Regigigas, is once you don't have slow start, because it's kind of a waste of Dynamax with slow start. But Superpower, raise your attack, and it's really good. Raise your attack, and I think it has, like, the highest. It has this, I think it has 95 Dynamax, which is the second highest for fighting type moves. Crush Grip, that's 130. It's really good. Dynamax. Earthquake's just good coverage. And that last slot, like I said, Regigigas' coverage is pretty much what you need. I would say Superpower and Crush Guard, or Crush Grip for the stab, and then the +1 to attack. And then honestly, these last two Dynamax moves are completely up to you. Avalanche or Ice Punch, really, in this case, that give you the extra ice coverage. Darkest Lariat for the dark. Like, he has pretty good coverage. Fire Punch, Ice Punch. You can run the Heavy Slam for the steel. Or Iron Head. Let's see, Rock Slide, or Stone Edge in this case for Dynamax. Run something like the Aerial Ace if you want the speed. But, like, if you go down this list, he has pretty good, well, I guess that's pretty much it. But you have between, our Psychic, Zen Headbutt if you want the Psychic Terrain. But, especially in doubles, you can play around it a little bit more with, like, Zen Headbutt, Psychic Terrain, and then Expanding Force, whether it's when Wheezing gets KO'd or whatever. You can play around that. And if you can get, especially with Galarian Wheezing, if you can come in with that slow start and get rid of it, Dynamax, and then let's say Wheezing faints after X amount of turns, like after 3 turns after when you are done Dynamax, that's perfect timing because it's like you got the most out of your Dynamax while you could. And then you have 2 turns left, and then you could stall, so you can run Protect in the slot. And like, let's say Wheezing goes down after the 3rd turn and you're on Dynamax, you can stall out a little bit to try to survive another turn. But I didn't put like max attack, adamant. But again, you can run max health if you just want to be really tanky. If you run something like an Aerial Ace in that last spot, then you can run max speed to try to max out your speed. The only thing about that is Wheezing's also really Wheezing's not the fastest, he's slow. So it doesn't really help that much. It helps Regigigas, but not really Wheezing. So it just depends on what you want to do in that last spot. If you want speed, speed investment. If not, health is good. Or if you just want that speed to be decently fast, you could also do something like that. But some of the ways to try to stall around the slow start is Protect, of course. Protect sub, maybe, but you're slow. The problem with Protect sub, though, in Regigigas is slow start halves your speed, too. So you'll get hit and then sub. So that could screw you over, especially if you get hit and you sub, and then you don't have enough health for sub or something along those lines, and it's a lot harder to use protect. It's a lot harder to get your health back with leftovers, for example. You're just being like a worse ninja with protect sub, so it kind of runs a risk. Also, for all the subs, the stall sets of Regigigas, Darkest Lariat is always an option if you're scared or if you're worried about them setting up against you, especially defensively. Darkest Lariat's always an option because it ignores it. But pretty much with this one, you want to come in, protect, and you have leftovers every turn, but protect and then knock off, or just depending on if they're weak to ground, if they do super effective ground or body slam, and then protect. Knockoff's really good too because of leftovers, so they can't heal, or if they have a barrier or something like that. But pretty much for the first 5 turns, you want to stall with protect and knock off, because you're not going to do a ton of damage. You'll still do a decent amount of damage, but you won't do a ton. So protect, knock off, protect, and then damage, and then protect again, and then that'll be turn 5. So you could either attack, or you could always double bank on that protect too, if you want to run that, and just, or if you want to risk that, just double bank on the protect to try to weasel around it a little bit quicker without taking less damage. But this is the stall set that I like on Regigigas, which is Thunderwave Protect, max health, max attack, with leftovers still. What you want to do is come in, protect, and then Thunderwave, and then protect. So pretty much you have a double chance of not being hit, to where every other turn you're not getting hit from protect, for one, and then every turn you're not using protect, they have a chance of being paralyzed. But even if they don't get paralyzed, let's say they set up, and then you have Darkest Lariat, which will ignore their stat changes. So you can really play around that. And the best thing about this one versus this one is even if they switch out with this, you can still Thunderwave whatever switches in. So you have that security of, okay, at least you're doing something versus just protecting. Oh, I took an item. Like you can also run knockoff on this one too if you really just want to really hamper that opponent. But I don't want to run into an issue where they set up and then you're just nothing you can do. Also with this one, with body slam, you also have a chance to paralyze. So it's sort of like, if you can get that paralysis with body slam that you throw in after a knockoff or something like that, you can really make advantage of that and just really hamper your opponent. But I really like the Thunder Wave because it also slows them down too. For this one, you could like drop, this one you could run speed, but I like the bulk. But especially when slow start disappears, Thunder Wave will be really good to have you keep your speed. But you also have to be really careful though. Hopefully the best case scenario would be them trying to set up against this Regigigas and just getting hit with Thunder Wave repeatedly, or them getting hit with paralysis repeatedly. Also with this one, you can take a risk and like throw an attack out there instead of protecting and like hope they get paralyzed. So it's different things you can try to do. And also this is 100% full stall, by the way. It's just arrest, sleep talk, chesto resto with sleep talk. What you want to do is you come in, you just do damage until you get like till you're not comfortable with your health, and then you rest, get back up to full, chesto berry, and then repeat, rinse and repeat. You could also run Thunder Wave, and you run Thunder Wave, but you run the risk of getting walled out, especially if you keep body slam. So you'd have to run like Thunder Wave and then probably Darkest Lariat, honestly, because I wouldn't. Fighting is immune to Ghost, or Ghost is immune to fighting and normal, so you can't run fighting or normal. Flying / levitate is immune to earthquake, so you have to be really careful. Knockoffs only has one good move, one good hit, and then it doesn't do a lot, so you'd have to run like Darkest Lariat instead. But rest, sleep talk, and just go from there, and just be really tanky and annoying. And pretty much just run, as long as they don't set up against you, you're fine. And especially once slow start runs out, you'll start doing a ton of damage with body slam, Darkest Lariat, and then you'll heal. And then sleep talk into one of those two moves, and as long as sleep talk doesn't repeatedly bring rest, you'll be fine. As long as they can't two-shot you, and sleep talk just doesn't keep bringing rest over and over, you'll be fine. But some of the other moves Regigigas learns, he learns Giga Impact and I want to say Hyper Beam too. Yeah, Hyper Beam and Giga Impact, they're options, especially Dynamax. Confuse Ray is also an option on the stalled one, but if they switch out, they don't have Confuse Ray anymore, so it's kind of, these defeats the purpose a little bit. Payback and Revenge are really good if you're just accepting that you're going to be slow and bulky, because they'll both do double, especially Revenge if you get hit. That'll have 120, and Payback will have 100 if you go after them. So with slow start, Payback is almost guaranteed to do 100, as long as they're not super slow. Knockoff's really good. Again, Body Press. Wide Guard's really good in doubles, but Body Press is good if you just want to do damage while slow starts up, when you just go like max health, max defense, really tanky. But the problem is, what else would you put with that? So you kind of get stuck. Zen Headbutt's just really good coverage. That's why I said Regigigas has really good coverage overall. He learns all the punches, especially Dynamax. They're really good. Facade's also always good for a physical attacker, just in case you get statused. Or burned, really, in this case. It would really hamper you, especially with slow start active. Break. The thing that really sucks about Regigigas too is if you switch out, the counter gets reset. So, for any of these sets, except for maybe, unless you're running doubles with Wheezing, if you switch out, you have to redo the whole process, which sucks. Rock Slide and doubles is really good. One thing you could do with Regigigas too is Endure, Substitute, and just stall. Especially if you can bring speed into him from like a Ninjask or something. Endure sub for a couple turns with like a Lychee Berry or a Salac. I think Salac's speed. Yeah, Salac or Lychee Berry. Probably Salac because you'll need the speed a little bit more because you'll be low on health. And just go from there and try to sweep everything with 160, especially with 160 attack, especially if Ninjas can bring in something like a Swords Dance with the Baton Pass. You would go from there and just shred things, but he has decent special coverage. Maybe throw in an Icy Wind on a double set. But he has decent special coverage with like a Thunderbolt, Earth Power, Focus Blast, and like Hyper Beam Dynamaxed, but like it's not the greatest. Especially, yeah, those are only moves he learns. Terrain Pulse is decent, but again, high horsepower. Heat Crash and Heavy Slam are high risk, high reward because they may be really good on certain things. They're good on certain things, but for the most part, they're very useless. Maybe Heat Crash more than Heavy Slam because you have Iron Head, but Heat Crash can be a use. Iron Heads and Headbutt, Earthquake. Superpowers, high risk, high reward, especially the way he's going now. He has no use for Stomping Tantrum. Bulldoze is actually really good in doubles too. Same with Retaliate's a weird on him because they don't have 140 base power, but you're guaranteed to have the slow start. Actually, you can do some things. If you're after your slow start and doubles with Retaliate, you can do things, but that's a really big risk you're running. Avalanche is also really good for the same reason as Payback and Revenge if you're going slower. Because I think Payback or Avalanche works the same way as Payback. To where... Okay, no, Payback works sort of like Revenge. But pretty much, Avalanche is really good if you're just going into that I'm slow, I'm going to be tanky mindset. Avalanche is really good, but that's how to use Regigigas in Pokemon Sword and Shield.